Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome once again. One of the constant areas of speculation every time a new 007 adventure is upon us is who is going to sing the title theme song and what's it going to be like. And with a discography as eclectic as James Bond's is, it could be anything. It could be a pop song, it could be a rock ballad, it could be an abomination to the art of recorded sound. It's anyone's guess. The Bond songs have always been a key promotional tool in marketing the films, and with big names in music attracted to the projects and prestige awards being dished out left, right, and centre, they get an awful lot of mainstream attention. And then on a more die-hard fan level, the lyrics to the songs can often provide cryptic clues into what we can expect from each upcoming movie, which is all very exciting. Everyone has their own opinion on what the perfect Bond song should be and who should sing it, and this video will be my own personal countdown from least favourite to favourite. Please do let me know your own ranking in the comment section below, but as I say, music taste is incredibly subjective, so don't go getting your knickers in a twist just because your own favourite might not rank so highly on my list. A couple of caveats up front. I'm going to be judging these songs on a wide range of criteria, so how they work in the movie, how they match with the title sequence that they occupy, the legacy outside of the films, but really it's just kind of going to come down to whether or not I like the song, so please do bear that in mind going forward. The vast majority of these songs are what we hear during the opening sequences for each Bond film. However, in the cases of each Dr. No from Russia with Love and On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I won't be ranking the instrumental themes that open those films, but rather the lyrical songs most associated with them. From Russia with Love is easy because it's obviously the Matt Monro song from Russia with Love, but for Dr. No I will be ranking Underneath the Mango Tree, and for Majesty's We Have All the Time in the World. Reason being for these is that those are the songs with most meaning associated with those films. They're kind of the de facto themes even if they don't occupy the opening title sequences, and it just didn't feel right comparing the instrumentals that do occupy those title sequences with the rest of the songs on this list. So with all that out of the way, let's get started with number 25 on this list, and the only Bond theme song that I actively dislike. And when I say actively dislike, I of course mean that hearing it makes me want to shove two GoldenEye keys in my ears and turn them until I no longer have the ability to hear anything at all. Yes, the only duet Bond theme, Another Way to Die from Quantum of Solace by Jack White and Alicia Keys. I think this is probably the weirdest Bond theme. It's a really strange pairing of singers. Like, I really enjoy both of their work separately, and I think either could have produced a decent Bond theme on their own, but together they sound really clunky and awkward, and the song itself is just an assault of disparate noises, some of which genuinely produce flinching reactions from me. They might as well have just scraped a cat against a blackboard for 4 minutes as far as I'm concerned. Much to my own benefit, the song never made much of an impact outside of the film. This is not a song that I've ever heard come on the radio since the time it was released, which is great for me, as it means I'll never be caught off guard. Now, okay, I know I'm being quite harsh on this, and I know there are some people out there who actually quite like this song, and more power to you if you do, but it's really not for me, and I'm happy to say that that's the bulk of negativity out of the way from me for the rest of this video, because this is the only song that I don't like. Like, everything else coming up, I actually do get something out of. Even the next song, even though it might be the second to last on this list, it's still a big leap up in quality and enjoyment for me personally. Good old Shirley Bassey returned to the series for her third Bond theme with Moonraker, and while it's precisely no one's favourite Bond theme, it's a pleasant enough listen, if a little unremarkable. This was in a run of songs where they were very much going for slower, ballady types, and I think it works in the context of the film itself, along with the title sequences, but I am a much bigger fan of the upbeat, poppy version we get over the end credits. But for the opening sequence, it fits pretty well. I always find it a little bit weird that the song is even called Moonraker, as it doesn't really feature the word Moonraker all that much, nor does it feature a moment where Bassey belts out the word in all its glory. And, you know, I'm not saying that I want a full-on Moonraker, but it might have helped, because without such a thing, it barely feels like a title track to a movie. It's still, it's a nice, gentle enough listen, and highly recommended if you're having trouble sleeping. Coming in at 23, Gladys Knight's License to Kill, a bombastic update of the classic Bond sound of the 60s, namely Goldfinger and Thunderball, but for me, it's very much of its day, like late 80s, early 90s power ballad kind of thing, which is not a genre that I love, but Knight really does belt it out, and I'd be lying if I didn't find myself singing along and vamping around my kitchen to this every time it comes up on shuffle. Much like Another Way to Die, actually, I tend to prefer cover versions of these particular tracks, and occasionally I hear cover versions that actually really make me love these songs. So when I saw the excellent Bond tribute band Cue the Music on stage, their covers of these two songs in particular were a couple of my favourites of the night, which I didn't think was possible, but hearing License in particular being belted out live on stage, it's such a powerful song, even if the original isn't one of my most listened to Bond themes. Much like Moonraker, there's something almost lullaby-like about Rita Coolidge singing Octopussy's title song All Time High. It's a very easy laid-back listen, and Coolidge is hardly belting it out, but maybe I kind of like it for that. It's probably one of the more bland Bond songs in all honesty, and I do appreciate how difficult it might be to get the word Octopussy into a song, but the lyrics are just so vague and kind of nothingy that it could have been slapped on any Bond film at the start. But that being said, I do quite like some of the lyrics. All I Wanted Was a Sweet Distraction for an Hour or Two is particularly lovely, so while I like the song in its own way, it is certainly one of the more anonymous Bond title tracks, to the point of comedy really. Like in Ted, the song is used as a bit of a punchline, and I appreciated that gag in that film, but I think there is still a bit more to be enjoyed in All Time High than just being the butt of the joke. Okay, some people may take issue with me including this song on this list at all, but when it comes to Dr. No, aside from the James Bond theme itself, I think that Under the Mango Tree is very much the de facto song of the film. I don't think that there's necessarily one de facto version of it. It's sung by a few people, but the Diana Coupland sung version is the one that I tend to hear the most. In the film, the song's most iconic use is undoubtedly when it's sung by Honey Rider as she emerges from the water in that standout scene. Though in that instance, the song isn't actually being sung by Diana Coupland, it's being sung by Nikki Vandersel, who provided the voice for Honey Rider. It's one of the Bond tunes that I catch myself humming almost subconsciously every now and then. It's such a lovely laid-back little ditty and works so well within the context of the film. It's a song that the characters in the film are hearing and singing, and I doubt it would have worked as an opening credits theme, and the James Bond theme that does open the film is obviously the better way to go, but Under the Mango Tree is a very memorable little song in its own way. Believe it or not, I'm actually a big Louis Armstrong fan outside of just his Bond song. He created decades of amazing music through his life, and We Have All the Time in the World is one of my favourites of his, but I really have a hard time thinking of this as a Bond song rather than just being a Louis Armstrong song, if you get my meaning. It of course plays over a montage of Bond and Tracy courting in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it's used terrifically there. The title is of course taken from one of Bond's final utterances in the story, and it's just a really lovely theme. Also very melancholy though, considering how the story goes. I like the song an awful lot, but it does occupy a different space in my brain, and I feel like it sticks out quite significantly in the Bond discography, and that's saying something considering how eclectic this assortment of songs is. I just tend to forget that it's a Bond song rather than just a Louis Armstrong single, but it is a lovely song in its own right. At number 19, I know this is the ranking that'll be the one people use to rake me over the hot coals, but honestly, as much as I do genuinely like Goldfinger as a song, and it's certainly one of the first Bond themes that I'd recommend to anyone for karaoke, I can't say that I find myself listening to it all that much. I think it works in the context of the film, and for the title sequence and the whole vibe of Goldfinger, it works so well, and it's iconic, it's the stereotypical Bond theme at this point, but this is a subjective list, and yeah, I'm never in a mood where I'm like, I'm gonna listen to Goldfinger now. But all that being said, the song is unendingly popular, and it is something of a definitive Bond theme, so it might seem quite low down on this list, but I do like Goldfinger an awful lot. I mean, come on, it is Goldfinger. A suitably bombastic follow-up to Goldfinger in the chronology, Tom Jones's Thunderball is clearly trying to replicate the success of its predecessor, and for me it actually works a bit better, and a good deal of that is seemingly by accident, as there were several alternate versions by different singers planned for the film's opening titles originally, Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang by Shirley Bassey being one of those, and I sure do love that song, but Thunderball is such a fun listen, and another one that I can personally highly recommend for karaoke. To date, the only time that the film's title singer has appeared in the title sequence themselves, Sheena Easton's For Your Eyes Only was quite the worldwide hit when it was first released and went on to be nominated for an Oscar. It's certainly carrying on the tradition of Bond ballads that existed through the late 70s and early 80s. It's definitely going for that nobody does it better vibe, but I think it works really well. It's also one of the few Bond themes I can't listen to without imagining the singer herself. I guess this is because Easton is all over the title sequence, so that's why I just can't separate the song from an image of her, but I really love that they made the decision to include her in the title sequence itself. It's such a beautiful song, and she fits into the vibe of a Bond title sequence so perfectly. It's a really nice marriage. So obviously you can't talk about Tomorrow Never Dies and the Sheryl Crow title song without also talking about how the film's end credits song, Surrender by K.D. Lang, is undoubtedly the better of the two songs. In fact, to even become a Bond fan, you need to sign a contract stating as such. This is a ranking of the main title songs though, mostly, so Surrender won't be appearing on this list, but hey, I think Sheryl Crow's Tomorrow Never Dies is an unfair rap amongst the fandom, and I think it'd fare much better were it not immediately compared to Surrender at every possible opportunity, and I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. I even battle with my own brain on the subject. Why can't you just enjoy it on its own without needing to compare it? It's not my fault they put a better song in the same film. You can enjoy both of them without feeling the need to tear one of them down. I'm not tearing it down, it's just hard to think of them separately when they're both in the same film. So yes, despite all that, I am nonetheless a fan, and the song actually includes some of my favourite Bond song lyrics. Martinis, girls and guns, it's murder on our love affair is so great, and I think Crow does a great job with the song, one of the more underrated ones by my reckoning. The behind-the-scenes spats between the film's music composer John Barry and the title song singers a-ha are well publicised, and by all accounts it was a bit of an unpleasant creative experience for all involved, but despite all that, I think it birthed a pretty darn great Bond theme. Another one of the more upbeat tracks and very much a pop song. This tends to be the song that I find myself listening to most, like, out in the wild. It'll be on the radio or on some random playlist somewhere, or honest to goodness in supermarkets, and obviously being the Bond geek that I am, such excitement at hearing a Bond thing in the wild can barely be contained. It's a song that works really well in the titles of the film. It has one of the cooler Bond music videos with the band playing on the 007 stage. I'm sorry to hear it wasn't the best of collaborations behind the scenes, but whatever. I mean, we have a great Bond theme out of it regardless. Talk about a grower. This one has been all over my rankings over the years. I remember being kind of meh on it when it first came out, and then I just couldn't stand to hear a second of it for a while, and now I'm actually finding myself listening to it quite a lot. It's definitely one of the more upbeat and poppy songs in the pack, and it really sticks out like a sore thumb because it is very much just a Madonna song that exists in a Bond film. And I know that Madonna did see a version of the story, and apparently the song was adapted to incorporate themes from the film. Okay, if you say so, but the most surprising thing I've been discovering about this song in the last few years is that I actually find myself hearing it out in the wild quite a bit. It comes on in bars, on the dance floor and stuff, and maybe I just get more of a kick out of that than anyone else, knowing that I'm the only person in the place who actually knows the lyrics to the damn thing. But man, I've really grown to like this one. It's dancey, and I can't say that many Bond themes make me want to get up out of my seat at a bar and hit the dance floor, but this one really does. I know a lot of Bond fans like to dog on it, and at some point in time I was certainly one of those fans, but like I say, over the years I've really come around to it to a point where it's actually in regular rotation on my playlists these days. At number 13, it's a song that has certainly had a significant life outside of the Bond series, Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and Wings. This song must have been a real shake-up when it first came out, following on from Diamonds Are Forever. It's such a fun, upbeat rock song. It's been used a lot in other media and covered an awful lot as well. It was the first Bond theme song to be nominated for an Oscar as well, which is a great achievement, and the instrumental breaks are a great excuse for all manner of pyrotechnics and dance numbers when the song is being performed live. As much as I do love the song, because it has been used and adapted so much outside of the series, it's another one of those that sometimes I forget that it's actually a Bond theme, and I think it's a testament to it just being a really phenomenally great song in its own right, and it provides an awesome opening to the film set, to images of flames and fiber optic lamps and the like. Tina Turner and Bono and the Edge brought Bond into the modern era of the time with a very 90s twist on the classic Goldfinger sound. Tina Turner is just a phenomenal performer, and I have to give a special shout out to the music video, which has the singer vamping around, a very 90s set intercut with images of big cats and such. I just love it, but I also think that it's a terrific marriage of song and image for the opening title sequence. Something about this slinky, powerful, tantalizing sound works so perfectly with Daniel Kleinman's terrific titles. definite highlight of the GoldenEye soundtrack too, and such a shame that the song wasn't instrumentally incorporated into the score at all, like so many Bond themes are, but regardless of that, GoldenEye remains one of my firm favourites. So you know what I said about this list being totally subjective? Please bear that in mind when taking into account the quite high ranking, really, of Lulu's The Man with the Golden Gun, a song that I love for its sheer camp value and good time energy. These are some bawdy, suggestive, carry-on movie-style lyrics, and I kinda love it for it. Obviously, this song was never gonna be nominated for an Oscar, and composer John Barry apparently hated it, and yeah, it's very on the nose, and does feel like it was written by people running out of ideas, and possibly intoxicated, and maybe even horny at 3 AM in the morning, but it has such a great pace. It's really short at just over 2.5 minutes, and I get a real kick out of it every time I hear it. Probably the best, opening, first few seconds of any theme on this list. I love whenever the song first comes on a playlist and you just hear that opening strike. It's so cool. It's like the musical equivalent of a gunshot, and I just love how rockin' Duran Duran's A View to a Kill is in general. A more apt title for the song might well have been Dance into the Fire though, given the repetition of that line throughout, but then the lyrics themselves border on nonsensical. Most Bond songs are about a villain, or Bond himself, or about being in love, or something like that. This is just, well, I don't know. I mean, Earth's Crystal Tears, Lover's Rosy Stain, A Sacred Why? I have no idea what any of that means, but I kind of dig it anyway, just because it sounds cool as just an arrangement of words. It's very satisfying. I guess, though, this is a film containing one of the series' most crazy villains, so maybe the song is supposed to be a reflection of the crazy random stuff going through his head? First crystal tears, fallen of snowflakes on your body. First time in years to drench your skin of lover's rosy stain. Matt Monro is certainly one of the less recognisable singer names in the Bond discography, and when I was a kid I tended to think that this was just Frank Sinatra, actually, and the song definitely has that kind of croonery delivery, but it's such a relaxing, easy listen that builds so well towards a belter of a climax. Of course, the song doesn't accompany the film's main titles, but rather appears in a short burst during the film and then covers the end credits. It's a song that I think might actually work better as an instrumental in the score. Not that I dislike the lyrics or Monroe singing at all, I think it's super lovely, but they're definitely some of the vaguest lyrics in the Bond canon. This is minor quibbling though. When I'm listening to the film soundtrack or the song pops up on shuffle, I'm not thinking about the meaning of the lyrics, I'm just loving the easygoing nature of the song. When compiling this list, this was the placement that I agonized over the most. The World Is Not Enough from Garbage, written by David Arnold and Don Black, has always been something of a favourite of mine, and I just adore how it builds and builds to such a bombastic finale, but it plays so sensual and sexy at the same time. I absolutely love the lyrics, and it feels very much like a song written from the perspective of the film's main villain, Electra King, and very clearly, it even uses her motto, "There's no point in living if you can't feel alive," in the lyrics, which I love. Some Bond songs can feel kind of vague lyrically, but this is a song that feels so embedded in the themes of the film, in both the sense of the musical themes and the subtexts, taking over the world and such. The music video is really great too, with lead singer Shirley Manson acting as a robot sent to kill herself and blow up a room full of people. It's an awful lot of fun and works with the song very well, just as the song works incredibly well with the title sequence too. Like I say, I think that The World Is Not Enough is one of the best examples of a Bond song feeling so organically connected to the film and subject matter, but then I think David Arnold is particularly a master at this, and we'll come to another instance in a little while where I think his involvement leads to a perfect marrying of song and film. But before that, Shirley Bassey singing Diamonds Are Forever is quintessential Bond, and easily my favourite of her three songs. The sultry lyrics, the music, Bassey's performance, everything comes together on this one so well to create something really special. To many, the song is probably too good for the film it's in, but it certainly gels incredibly well with the opening title sequence at least. I actually think that the song is so good that the movie kind of rides on some of the goodwill that audiences have towards this song, in a similar way to how the GoldenEye game occupies a separate space in media to the side of the film. I think that this song has a bigger life outside of the movie, and that's really cool. It's awesome that a Bond song can transcend the film it was written for and become something more, and that's certainly the case with Diamonds Are Forever, I think. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the most divisive rankings on this list, and Sam Smith's writings on the wall has really taken time to grow on me over the years, but honestly I find it so beautiful, so haunting, it genuinely produces goosebumps from me every time I listen to it. It's one of about only 3 Bond songs that I have very clear memories of hearing for the first time, and I remember listening to it with some colleagues at work the day after its release, and everyone's listening quietly, and then when Smith gets to the "if I risked it all" bit, someone just exclaimed, "Oh, it's so wet," out of the group that I was with, and I get that, I really had to come around to the falsetto in particular, but I honestly love it now, and clearly a lot of other people did too. It was the first Bond theme to hit #1 in the charts here in the UK, and it won an Oscar for goodness sake, and I think it's incredibly deserving of those accolades. Smith co-wrote the song with Jimmy Napes, and there's a certain melancholy to the lyrics that I think works really nicely, a futility almost, that gives the song a great vibe. It's been a real grower for me personally, but these days I can't get enough of it. Nancy Sinatra is a singer hardly with a great diversity or power in her voice, but I find her so perfectly bewitching on You Only Live Twice, one of my most favourite Bond songs, and such an easy, gentle listen. There's definitely something to be said for having power in subtlety. You Only Live Twice is just a great Bond film soundtrack in its entirety, and largely for me down to this theme and its peppering, its instrumental peppering throughout the film. It feels weird that the song works as well as it does over the titles, as we see quite extraordinary natural images of volcanoes exploding and lava and such, which all feels like it should call for something with a more dangerous sound to it, and You Only Live Twice is anything but that, and yet it works so perfectly. Despite not really setting the charts alight or getting any kind of big awards buzz, the song has been covered and sampled an awful lot throughout the decades, which I think is a great testament to its enduring popularity and timelessness. It's a beautiful song. Yes, coming in at number 4, the song that has graced about 95% of Bond film montages in existence, Carly Simon's Nobody Does It Better is an undisputed classic and a quintessential Bond theme, and it's easy to see why. It's soft, beautiful, yet powerful and bombastic at the same time. Simon's performance is perfect. It was the right song at the right time as the series looked to slightly reinvent and relaunch itself in 1977 after a few years' absence. It's one of the very best Bond song title sequence pairings, and along with Goldfinger and Diamonds Are Forever, I think it stands as one of the iconic Bond songs. I think those 3 kind of sum up the Bond title track more in the public consciousness than any of the other songs in the series, and each of them are certainly iconic in their own ways, but for me personally, there's just a few tracks that I love just a little bit more. Undoubtedly, this one may need some time to settle into the Bond discography. It's obviously the latest Bond title song, but from the first time I heard it, you can see the first time I heard it, in fact, in a video on this channel, ever since that instance, I've absolutely adored it. When EILISH was first announced as the performer, I admit I did feel like a bit of an old fogey, having to kind of ask the interns at work, like, is she considered to be good? But since then, I've really gotten into her stuff. I knew Bad Guy before No Time to Die was released, but that was kind of it, and since then I've become a bit of an EILISH fan myself. I love her gentle yet confident tone, and the song itself has such a soft darkness to it. I love the orchestrations, and her vocals are just perfect. I appreciate the delivery may not be for everyone, but I don't need every Bond song to be like a drag queen diva belter. I appreciate the variety, and I just love how No Time to Die builds and builds. Much like Writings on the Wall, it gets goosebumps out of me every time I listen to it, and I've been listening to it an awful lot since its initial release. I absolutely adore it, and for me, it's been an instant favourite. Back in 2012, there was no more desired pairing of artist and Bond song than Adele and what would become Skyfall. I have very clear memories of the build-up to the song's release, and personally, I've never been a huge fan of Adele, so I was kind of meh on this, and I was very much hoping that still either Muse or Lady Gaga would get the gig, and they remain the artists that I'd most love to hear a Bond theme from someday. But anyway, Skyfall was just the right Bond song at just the right time. Skyfall is so full of soul and mystique. Adele sings it perfectly. It matches the opening opening sequence of the film. It's terrific across the board. Famously, it became the first Bond theme to win an Oscar, and was the first one to be nominated for one since 1981's For Your Eyes Only, which boggles my mind, like looking at all the forgettable Flash in the Pan songs that have won and been nominated for Oscars above Bond themes in all of that time. But anyway, the song was a massive success all around the world, and Adele sings it as part of sets at festivals and the like. Her performance of it at Glastonbury in 2016 being one of my favourite live performances. I mean, it was just amazing to see a huge crowd of people joining together singing a Bond theme from like 4 years prior. It was just a phenomenal sight, and a clear indication of how the song has, like a good few songs before it, transcended the film it's attached to and entered the public consciousness in a different way, but in this case primarily through the status of the artist herself. And I love it when Bond songs do that. I love it when there are lyrics that not only Bond fans know, but they break out and become mainstream. It speaks volumes to the incredible talents that are attracted to these themes, and how it gives the films a different kind of recognizability, and I will always love Skyfall for doing that, as well as just being a fantastic piece of music in its own right. Much like A View to a Kill, You Know My Name, sung by Chris Cornell, makes a statement and opens its corresponding film with such an explosion of energy and exhilaration. It's my absolute favourite transition from pre-title sequence and into the titles, and it blends so well with the Daniel Kleinman images. It's the Bond song I found myself listening to more and more over the years, and when I look at my play counts, yep, it's number one out of all the Bond songs, so that's a big part of why it's number one here. I just listen to it an awful lot. I love how much this is a song from Bond's perspective too, and the lyrics are so poetic and yet tough. I've seen diamonds cut through harder men being one of my very favourite lines. I just love that lyric. It's great having David Arnold too writing with Cornell, as elements of the song are so expertly weaved through the film's soundtrack, obviously acting as something of a replacement for the James Bond theme, which is used incredibly sparingly throughout Casino Royale. The song has really grown on me over the years too. I remember when Casino Royale first came out and being relatively unsure of how I felt about it and this song in particular. It was such a break from what they'd been doing through so much of the Brosnan era, and maybe it's just some level of maturity that has brought me to this place now where I just adore that film and adore this song. I think they work perfectly together, and it's impossible for my mood to not be elevated when I hear this song. It's in regular rotation on playlists for me. I just absolutely love it. It may say a lot about my own music taste that some of these top ranking choices are quite recent songs. 4 of my top 6 are attached to Daniel Craig films, so maybe that just speaks to how my music sensibilities are a little bit more modern in some ways than others, but I think that's a pretty eclectic list, and please do let me know your thoughts on these rankings, including your own list, in the comment section below. I'd be really curious to see if there's much of a consensus, because in my head I always think of Goldfinger as being one of the most definitive Bond themes, and yet I think when people come to listing it, maybe they prefer others. I think A View to a Kill might rank quite highly as well. I think You Know My Name is considered quite high ranking amongst the fandom in general, but please do let me know your comments in the comment section below, because I would really like to see if there is much of a consensus on this. Also below you can find links to my social media pages, including my Facebook page, my Twitter page, and my Patreon page, for those of you who want to go one extra step in supporting this channel and receive a few little perks back as a thank you from me. With all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.